Good evening, class. Nicholas Ekingbemi here for our Week 2 Multimedia Discussion Board discussing the ethical theories that we went over in our learning activities. The first theory that I will be discussing is Natural Law by St. Thomas Aquinas, where essentially he stated that morality and life are grounded in God. God has left his mark on us, and essentially we are to seek him so that we can do good and avoid evil. In doing so, we will always be the best version of ourselves. He also had his seven basic goods, which he listed as reproduction, the education of our offspring, seeking God, living in society, avoiding offense, shunning ignorance, and life itself. Which would be categorical imperative, also known as Kantianism. Categorical imperatives command are essentially our commands that must be followed regardless of our desires. They are moral obligations that are derived from pure reason. So Kant, he believed that it doesn't matter if you want to be moral or not. The moral law is binding on all of us. There's no need for religion or to know what the law is. Essentially, right and wrong will help us come to have intellect. He also had two formulas, one being universalizability and the other being the formula of humanity, where universalizability was a principle that if it's okay for me, then it's okay for everyone else. And the formula of humanity was essentially just sticking to your guns and sticking to what you believe is right. Next would be utilitarianism, which was founded by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. It focused on results or consequences of our actions and to treat our intentions as irrelevant. Actions should be measured in happiness or pleasure fulfilled, and that in all things we should be seeking pleasure and happiness to avoid pain. Happiness for all, even if it isn't necessarily happiness for you. So essentially, you're taking one for the team, and at times you're choosing the action that produces the greatest good for the greatest number, or you're living by rules that are likely to lead to the greatest good for the greatest number of individuals. Next was contractarianism, which was a theory from Thomas Hobbes, where essentially you're trading in some freedom for the benefit of a cooperative living. It's an ethical theory that an individual may make the right choice due to a social contract or an implied social contract, which is essentially a contract that you never necessarily agreed to, whether verbally or in writing, but you kind of just find yourself in. We can sometimes see that even in social media with Instagram, Facebook, some of the quote unquote facades or masks that people put on that they are now essentially binding themselves to living by because of something that they put out there, and now it's a contract that they necessarily have to abide by because that is how they are viewed. So, two theories that I believe are seen in public administration would be utilitarianism and contractarianism. I believe that utilitarianism can be seen in healthcare, essentially maybe the Affordable Care Patient Care Act, or also known as Obamacare, where every citizen now is mandated to have health care. And those who were being charged astronomical health coverage rates or who were not being seen by doctors due to not having health care now have to have health care. And essentially, it is giving happiness and pleasure to all, where now some people might not be happy for it, but essentially they have to take one for the team so that as a whole, the greater number of all can have health care. And then I think contractarianism can be seen in police work or even with elected officials, whereas police officers, you are sworn in to uphold the law enforcement code of ethics, or as an elected official, you are essentially being contracted to do what you believe is better for the greater good of everyone. And In both circumstances, these are paid positions. You're essentially trading in some of your own freedom to essentially benefit to a cooperative lifestyle by cooperating with the laws of the land. With the virtue theory, I do believe that public administrators do abide by it, or that you can see it in public administrators, because most public administrators, whether they take on the role as fire chief, police chief, elected officials, governors, presidents, directors of departments, these are people who you trust and people who you see to have virtue, which is why they're in the position that they're in. These are people who can diffuse a tense situation, maybe in the workplace with workplace drama. They're confident but not arrogant. They are brave but not reckless. They are able to make executive decisions in stressful moments that are overall for the betterment of not only themselves but of others. They're generous but not flashy. They give when they can, but they also know when, hey, I need to just hold on to what I have. And they tend to always make the right decision. So this is my presentation. These are my references, and I look forward to seeing your comments. Thank you.